Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. 5 most important breakout players for this Auburn program heading into 2024. And this is, in my mind, one of the most fun conversations to have where you take a look at this Auburn program, and there are a lot of players that the national media might not be talking about. But if this Auburn team kind of achieves their potential in 2024, you are going to get some breakout seasons from a lot of guys that aren't necessarily getting a lot of national media attention in the summer months. It's an opportunity for all of us to, kind of call our shots heading into 2024, talking about some breakout players. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Auburn fans. We've talked a lot about this program over the last couple of days, specifically as it relates to the recruiting trail. The amount of support y'all have shown the fellas, it's been absolutely amazing. It's no secret. We love talking this program. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, for the Auburn fans, I would love to hear some breakout candidates that you guys have as well in the comments section. I always learn a ton from you guys. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with transfer offensive tackle Percy Lewis coming over from Mississippi State. And you talk about a guy that is just flying under the radar, according to the national media. It's Percy Lewis. And you look at Percy Lewis, started the last 7 games for Mississippi State in the SEC last year, played phenomenal football. You're talking about 235 pass pro opportunities, only gave up 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hurries, was largely one of the more effective tackles that we saw in the conference towards the end of 2023. Now, he comes to Auburn, and what really stands out to me about Percy Lewis coming in is, one, you're getting a really good left tackle, but I think more importantly, it just makes that whole left side of the offensive line better because you take a guy in Dylan Wade who played really well at tackle for Auburn in 2023. You kick him into guard where that's his more natural position. He is going to be a better guard than he was tackle. So you get better at tackle. Now you get better at guard, and then you have Connor Lewis center. I look at that left side of this Auburn offensive line and say, if you get all conference play from Percy Lewis, I'm pretty confident you're going to get all conference play from Dylan Wade and Connor Lew. I think this is a really good left side of the offensive line for Auburn. Not only do you get better at left tackle, I think you get better on the whole left side of this offensive line. And not to mention Percy Lewis, 6'7", 355 pounds. This dude can move bodies off the line of scrimmage. He can get it going in the run game as well. I think this is, again, not a lot of people are going to talk about Percy Lewis. This was a massive find for Hugh Freeze in the transfer portal where, all these Power 5 programs in the SEC were trying to find starting caliber tackles. I think Hugh Freeze, not only a starting caliber tackle, I think he found a very high upside starting tackle heading into 2024. Next one on the list, and I said we would talk about under the radar guys, but it's really hard not to talk about Payton Thorne heading into 2024. And what I want to focus on with Payton Thorne is there's a lot of reason to believe that you're going to get significantly better quarterback play from Payton Thorne going into 2024 than you saw in 2023. I think it starts with just his second year with this Auburn offense. I think it's important to remind everybody that Payton Thorne came in after spring practice, really only had a couple months with this team until he had to go play SEC football. So you're going to get better by just being a little bit more experienced in this offense. And then Hugh Freeze comes in, is going to have a little bit more control over what Auburn's going to be on offense. That's certainly going to help whenever you inject one of the best play callers in the country to help even have a little bit more control over the offense. You just have a feeling the offense is going to play a little bit better. And then I think thirdly, and by far most importantly, is that the talent around him is significantly better than 2023. If we're just being honest, Auburn had one of, if not the worst pass catching room that we saw in the SEC last year. And I think that certainly didn't help Payton Thorne. Now you look at it going into 2024 and say, you bring in true freshman Cam Coleman, who I think at this point, I don't think it's crazy to talk about Cam Coleman being a true wide receiver one for this Auburn program as a true freshman. You're bringing Keandre Lambert-Smith, who I think is a phenomenal wide receiver that probably is playing in the NFL had he not been playing on Penn State. And then you have Robert Lewis. You have Rivaldo Fairweather at the tight end spot. I would remind a lot of Auburn fans that go back to 2022 when Payton Thorne was at Michigan State and had a good team around him, guys like Jaden Reed and Keon Coleman. Payton Thorne threw for 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns. They won over 10 games in the 2022 season. I think Payton Thorne has shown the ability to be a quarterback that can win a lot of football games at a high level if the offense around him is there. I think last year it certainly wasn't. I think this year it certainly is. I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that, again, Payton Thorne, a veteran quarterback, has the massive potential to break out in 2024 and be a quarterback that Auburn can win a lot of football games with in the SEC. Last player on offense I want to talk about, we just mentioned him, tight end Rivaldo Fairweather. Now, am I making a stretch about breaking out? Yeah, probably. Rivaldo Fairweather was one of the best tight ends in the conference last year. Now, what excites me the most about Rivaldo Fairweather, he goes from the tight end that was just the only guy that really could get anything going on the offensive side of football in the passing game to a tight end that's still going to be a really good football player, but not necessarily going to be the player that defenses are scheming against. You go back to 2023, if you were trying to stop Auburn from pushing the ball down the field, you look at Rivaldo Fairweather and say, if we take Rivaldo Fairweather away, Auburn's not having a lot of success. Now Rivaldo Fairweather in 2024 is just going to be this guy kind of flying under the radar, having opportunities to really impact this passing attack in a lot of different ways. I think the second thing that excites you the most about Rivaldo Fairweather is you look at where he likes to operate, that short, intermediate, middle of the field kind of concepts. That was really hard to access last year for Auburn because you look at the boundary wide receivers, it was a disaster. So what were safeties doing? They were sitting in the box. The middle of the field was awfully congested because you didn't really have any capabilities of attacking the deeper third. Now you have a guy like Cam Coleman, which safeties and defenses are going to need to respect. Safeties are going to be needing to go over the top of Cam Coleman. I think that kind of opens up the middle of the field for Rivaldo Fairweather to get a lot more opportunity in space. You are looking at one of the biggest nightmare matchups, or matchup nightmares, I should say, at the tight end position. Now he's going to have some better opportunities to impact this passing attack. I think Rivaldo Fairweather was the team's leading receiver. He led the team in targets, led the team in receiving touchdowns. I don't know necessarily if he's going to be the leader in all three of those categories in 2024, but he is going to have the opportunity to make, in my mind, just a ton of plays for this Auburn offense. Another guy that I am fired up for in 2024. Going to the defensive side of the football, and let's talk about Keldrick Faulk. And one of the things and reasons why I'm so high on this Auburn team heading into 2024 is you look back to 2023 and say a lot of the young contributors that were on this team are coming back in 2024 and have years of eligibility remaining in 2025 and in 2026 as well. Why are we so high on this Auburn team, not only in 2024, but for the next couple of years? This team is so young, but it's so talented. And a guy like Keldrick Faulk played phenomenal football as a true freshman in the SEC, was one of the best true freshmen in the conference. And I think why I label Keldrick Faulk as a breakout candidate that is massively important to Auburn is you look at Keldrick Faulk and say, this is a guy that can be one of the most dominant defensive linemen that we see in the conference going into year two. He is a hammer against the run. He knows how to get off blocks, win at the point of attack. And then you look at him as a pass rusher and say, that's probably where he can take that step. I mean, the big functional frame that he has, the juice off the line of scrimmage, all the traits are there to look at an elite pass rusher in the SEC. I think he just needs a little bit more development, which makes sense. He was a true freshman last year, having a full another offseason going into year two, learning how to use the length, the power in his hands that he has. I expect Keldrick Faulk, I mean, he was already pretty physically developed. No doubt he's going to be a little bit more physically developed going into year two, but I think a lot of Keldrick Faulk's development is going to happen between the years. You know, putting a little bit more technique together, having a deeper bag of pass rush moves. And if you kind of see that emerge for Keldrick Faulk, you're looking at a defensive lineman that was very good for Auburn in 2023, could be dominant for Auburn in the 2024 year. And you kind of couple that with Jalen McLeod, true freshman Amaris Williams. This pass rush for Auburn can be pretty stinking good in the 2024 year. Last one I want to talk about, another guy that had a phenomenal true freshman year, Kayin Lee. Not many people are talking about Kayin Lee, probably not going to be included on any preseason all SEC teams I think Auburn fans are sitting there and saying, oh, we have a cornerback that could be one of the better cornerbacks in the conference over the next couple of years. Played really well as a true freshman, 50% completion percentage on 26 targets. I think the consistency maybe wasn't always there for a guy like Kayin Lee. If he can become just a little bit more consistent in the 2024 year, going into year two, I think you're looking at a true cornerback one. You pair him up with Keontae Scott on the other side and say, this Auburn cornerback room has the chance to be really good. I think he's really important too, because I don't think the depth is necessarily great behind him. So you got to have Kayin Lee be a contributor. You got to have him stay healthy and put it together. But if he does, I mean, you're looking at another cornerback that can be, in my mind, an all SEC caliber player heading into the 2024 year. You look at all the reasons to be optimistic about this Auburn program. I think it starts with the young talent. Guys like Kayin Lee, Keldrick Faulk, only going into year two with this program. A lot of room to grow from an Auburn team that was 6-6 last year. Fired up about this program in 2024. Would love to hear from you guys in the comments section regarding maybe some breakout players that I left out. Appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.